All right, Kiss Army, welcome to the KissFAQ podcast. Thank you for giving us your time today and letting us into your head. I hope we don't do any damage. This is a Kiss-related podcast by the board, for the board. We hope that you enjoy.
All right, welcome to the show. I'm Julian, he's Ken, and he's Marcus Almighty. Thank you as always for joining us, Ronnie Parker, Austin Newland, and anyone watching live or joining us later, Bill Phelps. Thank you so much. So we don't have too much structure today for our show because, you know what, we're busy guys, some of us, and got stuff going on in our lives, and we're going to, well, September should be a busy month, especially with the refocused issue or episode of Kiss Animalize celebrating the 40th anniversary. What's up, Wade Lucas? Good to see you. Thanks for joining us. The final episode of The Inner Sanctum dropped yesterday. It is 3 shows in one. It is all 3 nights of Kobo 1976. Which we just pick apart a little bit and talk about. And, you know, the first series of those shows pretty much covers a lot of the core videos that in most cases I think have now been legitimized and released. But back in the days when we started collecting, they were, of course, shows that we, you know, got excited about seeing in their entirety, or bits or pieces of them and little more pieces of them. So it's been fun to actually sit down and focus on those videos, force myself to watch the video rather than just listening to the audio. So if you're so inclined, please check those out and maybe we will do more. We shall see. What other news this week? I know I want to talk about some, you know, recent merch purchases. Ken, we'll talk about yours in a second. I had 2 things arrive this week. I wasn't going to buy this actually because I was there, but I did pick up, and it arrived this week.
Nice.
Last Kiss at the Garden by the Spanish Kiss Army. These guys do a great job on it. Again, I was there, and I went to, you know, the events that I was able to. You know, I went to the smaller, you know, free access fan gatherings rather than the professionally organized ones with tickets or anything else, just because I didn't want to do much. And, you know, I was there for the final Kiss. So it's incredibly well put together. You know, very nice design element in it. One other thing that's coming in this becomes related to what I'm working on, and I think I've showed you guys some of the like page counts for War Machine, and I didn't have it. I didn't have the Kiss bio from the Lick It Up press kit, so I managed to pick up a British copy. It turned out to be an original, which is just fine. So continuing to work on War Machine, just starting to, you know, really stab away at it and see what the gaps are. Been looking into Wendy O. Williams is the very last chapter in the book. Yeah, the last couple of chapters are, you know, April '84, which is all about Vinnie and his demo sessions in Burlington, and not calling. Well, Gene was calling him at the time a lot, but he's out of the band at that point, and the date from the lawsuit. So that's the last chapter on Kiss, so to say, and then the very last bit is going to be the Wendy O. Williams album, which is, of course, kind of, sort of a related Kiss album. It's probably the reason why the multi-tracks to you know, certain Kiss songs no longer exist, because Gene took them and used them as composites for Wendy's album. And I think the reels probably ended up in whoever owns Gem and Passport's IP libraries. So that's just a quick 85,000 foot view. War Machine, 280 pages as it stands today. Cool. Yeah. Too many gaps, though. Too many. Still need a lot of newspaper reviews for the actual scans from people who clipped these back in the day. Ticket stubs. Anyone who went to 82 to 84 Kiss concerts have their original Kiss stub.
Do I have any?
Love to.
Look.
You've already given me some. So.
Oh, I did? Okay. Yeah. Then I don't need to give you then. I can't remember.
So ephemera relating to Vinnie Vincent's tenure in Kiss from newspapers. If you've got any and want to contribute, you know where to find me. Ken, you bought something this week too.
Yeah, came in the mail. It went on sale this week, and it came really quick from Amazon. It's the Raise Your Glasses book that was put together by the Shout It Out Loudcast podcast, which is another Kiss podcast, and it's about every studio song, and that Kiss has done, and people reviewing or having stories about the songs, how they came to hear these songs for the first time, or little nuances about the song, about the drumming or whatever. It has reviews or stories from the main guys that produced the book, plus they got a whole bunch of other people like Bruce Kulick has a whole bunch of stuff in there. Todd Kearns, people, members of Anthrax. It goes on. Many bands who we know that have loved this, plus a lot of podcasters. I'm in there actually for just a couple songs, comments on a couple songs, but there's other podcasters and fans in general too. So their thoughts on these songs and how it affected them, maybe, or this or that. It could be anything. It's just not all one kind of thing, And there's a few pictures in there too. People like that. They have pictures of themselves in maybe Kiss makeup, or a picture with the band, or something, something like that. But there's a lot of stuff. I mean, this is there's a picture, and they're writing about songs. So it goes chronologically, album by album. And I just started reading it, and so far, I'm enjoying it. I'm enjoying the different little stories or views of the songs. Most of them are positive. There's maybe just a very, very small. And if you're a Kiss fan, you like mostly everything.
Who took on Read My Body?
Read My Body. I can.
Yeah, that should be interesting.
Yeah, Read My Body should be an interesting one. Nowhere to Run. I see that. Okay.
And we don't want to spoil it for anyone.
I won't say. I mean, let's see. I've had enough. Okay, I gotta go further up. What's this one?
Is it chronological or alphabetical?
It's chronological. Smashes, Thrashes, and Hits. So I'm getting close.
Next album.
Here it is. Here it is. Okay, Read My. Let's see. Betrayed. Hide Your Heart. Rise Your Heart. Let's see.
Rise Your Heart.
Yeah, Read My Body. How many people did? Chris Jericho is one.
Of course.
Yeah.
Pasquale, is it Vari? He's from the
Vari.
Kiss Army Nation podcast.
Yep.
Chris L. from Pot of Thunder podcast. Alexander Talkington from the Kiss Army Things podcast. See, there's all different. And then one more. Chom Gigliotti, that is, from the Shout It Out Loud cast, which is one of the guys that,
Yeah.
So those are the ones for that one. I will not read those. That could be a surprise if you decide to buy the book, and see what they say about that song. So should be interesting.
Yeah, you know what? Congratulations to the Shout It Out Loud podcast or Loudcast guys. It takes a lot of effort to do books, whether you're compiling contributions from a whole plethora of other people, doing original research, doing anything to actually conceptualize, execute, publish, and deliver. Wow. That is what is called the full process. So, congrats to you guys. I wish you the best of success on it. So, very cool. Obviously, Ken, who's the only one on the podcast who's got it so far, is enjoying it. And that sounds like a positive review because Ken's not known to be a bullshitter.
Yes.
No bullshit. Yeah, no bullshit. So, see, I'm only in there because I was telling these guys earlier that they needed some more reviewers because they were trying to complete the book, and they contacted me, and I did a couple for them. I said they were scraping the bottom of the barrel when they contacted me for a comment. Anyway.
Just to say really quickly, I didn't get anything this week, but I do have to say that I've been an avid watcher of the Inner Sanctum videos, and this last one was excellent, like very, very good. Being somebody who does have all 3 nights now, thanks to a certain person who I thank very kindly for sending me those. I've enjoyed those 3 nights immensely, and having this now to sort of have a sort of like a comparison and talking about the differences, and it was a fantastic watch and listen. So I highly recommend it if you haven't watched that video to do check it out, because I think that those Kobo Hall shows are probably, I wouldn't say that they're probably the most collected by people, but I'd say most people who are collectors probably have those in their collection, those shows. Maybe not all 3 of them,
legendary,
but at least 1 or 2 of them for sure. So I highly recommend it. And also take Julian's comments seriously about that, the whole tickets and reviews and stuff like that. If you have for that era for Creatures and Lick It Up, because you want that book. I want that book. I know that Ken wants that book desperately. So let's get that book done. Let's help him get it done. Let's get him some things that'll help him finish it up.
Thanks, Mark. Well, we'll see. Again, we'll see what happens. We got some other people who've joined the live chat. G. Chup, Gordon, is that? Scott Hawk, Adam, North Carolina, or NC, and Bill Phelps. Thanks for joining us. Let's get into some of the board topics this week, because that's really where this is. Ken, we're starting with one of your topics, and that's Kiss's most played live tracks. Tell us about that video and whether it was surprising. I would just like to say one thing on it. Was that built from Setlist FM data?
Good question. I don't know.
Because Setlist FM data is absolute crap. People go in and make up set lists, and actually they guess what is actually in there. Where if it's the Animalized tour, they pick an Animalized set and they just apply it to all the shows, because they get points for contributions.
That's a good question.
But still,
I'm hoping they took your book, one of your
no,
and did something, or it could have been something else, but. Yeah, that's kind of. I think someone did ask where they took the source from, where they got this source, but I hadn't gone back to look and see if they answered that question on the YouTube channel. So I saw that someone posed the questions like, "What's the source? What was your source for these songs?" But as you see, I guess you can see them go. It goes year by year. Yeah, I don't know. It could be inaccurate, but when you look at the final tally of these songs, it's kind of interesting watching it. You see the early songs kind of come and go, and then there you find the main staple of songs start to take over on the chart, and it builds up, and then towards the end, and it gets to the end of this one. I don't know if it goes. I don't think it goes all the way to 2023. But I think it ended earlier, 14 or something. I want to say. But anyway, it's interesting. It looks like their standard set list, pretty much. If you just look at the 20 songs, it looks like their set list. I mean, so they did play those songs quite a bit. And it's believable that it's pretty accurate, in my opinion, at least the percentage of which songs were played versus others.
But it's interesting though. I'm just taking a look at this for the very first time. I'm looking at the screenshot that they have there, and it has the 4 guys and the song titles and the sort of the bars showing what is played the most, and they have Black Diamond here at the very top as showing as the most. And I can maybe believe that because it is from the first record. But what doesn't make sense to me is you have songs you have Rock and Roll Night. Okay, I can believe some of that. Yeah. Detroit Rock City, Love Gun. But how could Love Gun and Detroit Rock City possibly have more plays than Deuce? That's what I don't understand, because Deuce has been their standard opener for.
No.
Mark got zapped by
probably most of their career since the beginning. That's where it starts getting a little
Julian probably.
Deuce was out of the set for a while, Mark.
Yeah, they hadn't in the 80s, right? It wasn't.
Yeah. Yeah,
They weren't playing it at all.
songs, especially from 1976 onward, a lot of those early songs disappeared from the set. Songs like King of the Nighttime World were only in there briefly. It may almost be outweighed in our minds because we've listened to a lot of shows from those periods. So,
Yeah.
I don't know whether I would look at it from Kiss as the whole 50 years. I think I'd look at it in three phases. One is the original era, 72 to 80,
Yeah.
and then 82
to 92
to 95.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
And then
After
reunion,
that, it's all the same
the
song.
reunion. Yeah, the reunion you can just
Pretty
add
much.
in with the originals. Keep the originals
Yeah.
as the originals, the unoriginal era as the non-original era, and then the third era would be everything that came after, legacy act. Irrelevancy to a certain degree, because you're not touring with the same purpose. The same songs aren't in there for the same reason in the last third of the career as it was in the first, as Mark was alluding to, is Deuce. So it all changes up when you look at the whole era. There were songs that were favored inexplicably in each one of those eras. It's cool to kind of say, okay, they played Black Diamond more than Rock and Roll All Night, just by the nature of one coming in 1973. But they only did, I think, 11 shows in 73, a very limited amount of club shows. I don't know the number off the top of my head.
Firehouse was pretty high through that first era up till what, early 80s, I guess, or 80 or 82, 83, or something like that.
Well, it gets supplanted pretty much on Creatures Tour for the Fire bit,
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
The set list has always been organic. That's what's been great about it. Like Gene's fire breathing shtick has occurred in different songs at different times. Again, they haven't been afraid to shy away from opener and closer. You've had all sorts of things opening the set list, from Deuce to Love Gun to Rock Bottom, at one show. And, didn't they start one show with 100,000 years? So.
But didn't they mainly change up the openers more in the non-makeup era? Wasn't that more when they sort of changed openers? Because you would think that they weren't afraid to play some songs off the new albums when they came out, right?
Yeah, they flip-flopped in the 80s on the lead, the opening songs. I remember it seemed that it changed from year to year or tour to tour.
Yeah, I remember Love Gun was opening for Crazy Nights. I'm pretty sure that's
they
what
did
they
that.
had.
Yeah,
right.
Horrible opener.
That was a weird opener. Yeah, for me. Yeah. That was kind of strange. So, but anyway, I had posted that on the board, and I thought it popped up on YouTube, and I thought, oh, that's interesting. I've never seen this before, and they just had done it like 4 days ago or whatever it said, and I thought, oh, okay, I'll put that out there so that people take a look at it and see what they think about it.
Yeah, so let's move on to another topic. This is one that we can all talk about. It's a leftover from the Ask Julian thread. And it came in. Someone posted this after the show. And let's see. Rhiannon, I forgot to mention that, yes, that was your post that we were reading last week. I apologize deeply for failing to mention that. But who was this one by? I want to make sure I do say who it was by. Oh, God. Yeah, I'm really prepared today. Okay, so it's goodwills to all.
Oh, okay.
Did ask whether I thought, and this is going to apply to all of us, did Vinnie save Kiss? What is your opinion on the did Vinnie save Kiss question? Other than it's a dumbass question. No, Vinnie did not save Kiss. Vinnie contributed to Kiss saving Kiss. and again, I'll explain this thesis in War Machine's narrative in much greater detail. But in essence, Gene and Paul had committed to saving Kiss and righting the ship right from the beginning of 1982, when Phonogram demands 4 new songs for a compilation. And they quickly get to work and deliver, 4 more rocking songs. So they were already writing with stuff with people like Adam Mitchell, Ryan Adams. They had Michael James Jackson with a whole bunch of material being sourced. Gene had the stuff that had been writing with Mickey Free. So they already had an attitude defined that they were going into before Vinnie comes in and does a single thing. Because the first thing Vinnie does with Kiss is Back on the Streets. It was the very first thing they worked on with Vinnie in the studio. So that soft pap in comparison with the bombast of Creatures of the Night. And all of that direction was coming from Gene and Paul with purpose. So I say, no, Vinnie did not save Kiss, but his songwriting, sense of melody, and playing sure as shit contributed to the success of it, especially solidifying all of that consistently on Lick It Up. Ken, agree, disagree? What's your take?
I know we discussed it on one of the Lick It Up anniversary things, I think, but I always thought that Vinnie Vincent saved Lick It Up, because I have a feeling Lick It Up wouldn't have been as great of an album as it was without Vinnie. I mean, I like it better. I said this, I like that album better than Creatures. Of course, his contributions on Creatures was very good songwriting, even more songwriting, except for 1 or 2 songs. I think 2 songs.
Yeah.
On Lick It Up, and I think he saved Lick It Up. He made it a better album. I think if he didn't contribute to that, the album would have been more, I don't know, Animalize-ish, maybe. I don't know. That's not knocking Animalize so much, but I just think it wouldn't have been as good as it really was. So, saved Lick It Up in a sense.
All right, Mark, talk some sense into Ken.
Well, yeah, I mean, I think I kind of agree with Julian in the fact that I don't think he saved Kiss, but he definitely helped get them, out of that rut. Because let's face it, Paul during this time was very much, with blinders on. He was going to save Kiss. Kiss was becoming his baby, as we know. Like, as soon as you get to Asylum, he's running the ship already now. You know what I mean? There's nothing. He's producing everything else. So. But I think that he had a contributing factor, obviously, in this, as far as the songwriting and stuff like that. But, hell or high water, Paul was going to make sure that Kiss was functioning and, was going to move forward. So I think the correct answer is Paul Stanley saved Kiss, because he would not have let that go down. I mean, we all know Gene, his mind was elsewhere. He was looking at Hollywood and other things, and more things are coming down the line that it was more interest to him. So he would have probably let it sink if you think about it, but Paul never would have. So I think Paul's the guy who saved it.
Yeah, well, don't forget, and I go back to my comment about Vinnie saved Gene songs. Gene was bringing shit in like Chrome Goes Into Motion. Tell It to a Fool. He was, trying to revamp From the Elder, or Michael James was revamping on his behalf, and Bob Kulick had written lyrics to that. And then Something Seems to Happen in the Night, that really schmaltzy. Yeah. So Vinnie brought in that songwriting perspective that certainly helped, and it certainly helped Paul as well. Don't get me wrong. But again, Paul was able to Knockout, I'm a Legend Tonight, Down on Your Knees, Partners in Crime, which regardless of their quality or your taste for them, were still a damn sight better in terms of what was expected out of Kiss than The Elder. So, only Kiss can save Kiss. Kiss was two people by that point. So they made the decisions that, Creatures, don't forget, didn't go gold until 1994. So
yeah,
Creatures didn't save Kiss. Creatures was just the start of a process. It's part of the process. All right, let's move on. Enough of the Ask Julian shit. Kiss songs that sound like other band songs. Has there ever been a song that you've heard for the very first time and you clutch your pearls and you're like, that's been stolen from another group, or that reminds you of another group in such a way? I mean,
wow,
there are some very Foreigner-esque things on Crazy Nights. We last, a few episodes ago when we did the Sonic Boom, we talked about, Never Enough as a Poison song. Mark?
Heller Hallelujah is very obviously Deep Purple. I mean, the very first time I heard that, just immediately when I heard that, I was like, wow, that's Paul Stanley's been putting his influences on his sleeve. And I mean, let's put it this way. I'd rather that he has that influence and write a song like that than something that, would have been in poor taste,
Jungle. That's A440, isn't it? Or no, you show no one, or what is it? You fool no one. Deep Purple as well. The riff, the heavy ass riff.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So there's some definite.
Or what about the whole Alice Cooper suing for his
Dreamin'?
Yeah,
I'm 18. Yeah. There's another one when you talked about Crazy Nights, you said Foreigners, but because of Ron Nevison producing Heart, Reason to Live sounds so much like one of the Heart hits, so yeah.
And then you also mentioned before, Julian, that Love Gun had a comparative similarity to another song that you mentioned before too, right?
Well, Love Gun?
Yeah.
Yeah, well, Love Gun's lyrics borrow from The Hunter.
Mm-hmm.
Okay,
that's borrowed from The Hunter. Albert King borrowed from The Hunter. Blue Cher borrowed from The Hunter, which were just all trad blues interpreted by various getting heavier and heavier rock acts. I mean, all of those are Paul Stanley's wheelhouse. And then what is it? The solo in it is Blues Magoos. So talk about wearing your influences transparently. Think about the songs that sound like Raspberries or Steve Marriott or Mountain. It's all there, but that's probably the great thing about Kiss, though, is that they took all those influences and wove them. Paul would probably say steal from the best, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And the interesting thing is, though, sorry to cut you off there, is that for someone like me, I never knew about or listened to the music of Mountain until much, much later, after I was already a Kiss fan. So when I heard some of these songs, it never clicked into me that they were that, because I hadn't even heard these songs in the original, or like Raspberries, for example, and these other bands. They to me were, I discovered them after I discovered Kiss. So it was sort of backwards for me.
Yeah, it's gateway music.
Yeah.
Takes you down a rabbit hole into discovering other bands. Ken, any that come to mind for you, or any last comments before I move on?
Not really, other than for the most part, though, Kiss doesn't sound like anybody else. Most of their songs, they don't sound like anybody else. Like they have their own, for the most part, have had their own sound, even though they've changed the production style and changed the writing style. Most of their songs, they don't sound like anybody else. I Want You, Calling Dr. Love, they don't sound like anybody else. It just sounds like Kiss. they're kind of been their own thing for the most part. With then, a couple of times they do something like Radar for Love, or trying to get a little bit of a Zepp feel, or something like that. Read My Body, Def Leppard kind of, right? That kind of thing, going for that kind of sound. But for the most part, most of the songs, it's just they don't sound like, I can't ever place them sounding like any other songs I've heard before, for the most part.
All right, next, Ken, should Gene Simmons sing Paul Stanley Kiss songs live?
Oh, well, we
Wow.
did that. We got that one show where Paul had to go leave, right?
Can't even sing his own damn songs.
And he couldn't. I mean, he can't remember his own lyrics of his own songs. But I guess with the teleprompter he might. But no, he can't, because he doesn't. Not unless he practices them. It's just different. His voice is different than Paul's. I mean, he can't really. The same way Paul cannot really sing. I can't see Paul singing, Dr. Love or whatever, or Unholy. Not really. It just, I don't think it would work. So, because their voices are great, but they're separately. But if they're singing together, as blending them together, it's also really, really good. When they do that sound that they have when they both sing at the same time. But I don't think Gene should really ever, that's why when he was playing Love Gun on his recent, some of the shows he wasn't singing. He let someone else do it.
Well, to do that in Cookie Monster voice.
Well, the funny thing is, if you want some of the earliest evidence of why Gene should not sing it, refer back to the Inner Sanctum video about the Cobo Hall, and first night Paul Stanley knocks over his microphone, and Gene Simmons has to continue singing the verse of Strutter, and man, does that ever sound odd. Everybody looking good. It sounds so odd the way he sings it. It sounds so weird, when he sings that. It's just his delivery is so different. That's the thing. He has that more sort of, like you said, the gravelly voice, and Paul is much more melodic and stretches his voice out more and does, he's like the gospel singer in him, like, oh, he does a lot of those held out notes where Gene doesn't really tend to do that. So it's just a different vocal delivery. It would be so odd to hear a whole set of Gene doing songs like, Tears Are Falling and stuff like that. It'd be incredible to hear that,
Forever.
Yeah. I gotta tell
It'd be actually interesting to hear if there are any songs that he would want to sing of Paul's, because both of them were so unique within Kiss with their phrasing. And as Mark said, the way that they sing, that it really, I don't think it would work. And there are so many Gene songs that I'd much rather him sing. And I'd rather him sing all the words to, his songs. He's not Vince Neil, So at least we're getting more than 1 out of 4 lines, if that. And the rest is kind of mumbled. No, Gene... Let Gene butcher his own songs, not Paul Stanley's. Paul Stanley's have already been butchered enough. Still talking, and that was a double dynasty thread in case anyone was wondering. This next thread's by Hori Pro, and it's which Kiss studio track, in your opinion, contains Ace Frehley's best lead vocal performance? So, Mark, let's start with you on that. So you've covered an Ace song, haven't you?
I've never done an Ace song yet. No,
you haven't done an Ace song yet.
No, I haven't.
That shocks me.
Although I should do one, because I think that I could probably do a half decent job of that. But yeah, I love Ace's stuff that he's done with Kiss. the sad part is that he didn't do more of it throughout, at least in this 70s, 80s, right? But for me, and I know I can already see Julian's face grimace when I say this, but one of my favorite songs that he does for sure is "Talk to Me." That's one song I've always loved that he sings, and I think he sings it really good on the album. I mean, sure, live, Ace always has that sort of problem as being an inexperienced guitar player who sings, that he sometimes leaves out words or he doesn't get to the mic in time and leaves out things, and sometimes his phrasing isn't as good. But when he's in studio, he's fantastic because he just has to concentrate on singing, and the songs in studio sound great. And I've always thought that "Talk to Me" is one of his more standout songs. And you know what? I think that even when they did that farewell tour in Tokyo show and he did that there, I thought that was actually a pretty half decent version of it then as well. So maybe that is probably one of the more easier songs for him to deliver on stage as well.
I'm not going to bash you for saying that, because you know what? I'm in complete agreement, at least around the concept that Ace's vocals were at their height in 1979-80. That was when his singing was kind of the richest, and it was the balancing line between the impact of self-abuse detracting from his skills in a multitude of ways. But he sings it well. I don't think much of it as a song, but he certainly sings it convincingly. So, and it's more powerful than, say, a vocal like "Shock Me" or "Rocket Ride," where he was just getting comfortable with the concept. For me, without a doubt, it's "Save Your Love," just because it's got some vocal phrasing elements to it that are a little bit more complex than just rock singing, that he actually had to work hard at it. And while it's not as powerful as, say, "Talk to Me," it's more challenging and dynamic. So that's why I think that one's his best. Ken?
Yeah, for me, I have to say it's "Hard Times." I think just the way he phrases some things and the way he fills some little lines with attitude in that one. I think it's just the perfect vocal for him on that song. It's interesting. When I first heard "Love Gun" on the album, and I got the "Shock Me," it sounded. It's like, does it sound like a young kid? And I guess in teens, it sounded like to me singing the song. It sounded weird because I heard it live too, and his voice was getting a little better there. And then it kind of progressed pretty much. And then once 78 hit, and Eddie Kramer captured the solos, I mean, his voice was, he kind of, that hit the point where he could really sing, properly sing, I think, and found his voice at that point. And then after that, it was fine going forward. But "Hard Times" for me, I think, is the one that I like best for his vocals.
Yeah. Well, I mean, there's nothing like having a successful solo record and working on a whole record to kind of help your vocals get through. I mean, don't forget before that he was only getting a song to do here and there, and so he didn't really have as much time to work on it, right?
Yeah.
So I think that really helped him, because I mean, look at what happened in Dynasty right after that. I mean, he had 3 songs, all of them sung well and recorded well, and they sound great, right?
Yeah.
I'm just trying to. I believe "Save Your Love" won that poll, by the way.
Okay.
Yeah, this next topic was also a poll, and this one's by Rhiannon. It's which one of these is your favorite Paul Stanley demo? "When Two Hearts Collide," "Best Man for You," "Time Traveler," "Don't Let Go." And they even put none, but I don't think that's fair. These are all from 86 to 88, I think. "Best Man for You" ended up on a publishing tape, I think, when "Two Hearts Collide" was geared towards Share. "Don't Let Go," probably geared towards publishing. And "Time Traveler" ended up on the Kiss box in 2001. And All right, Mark, which one of those demos is your favorite, and why?
Can't even.
I'll just ask you right off the bat, Julian. Have you recently ate anything? I'm just going to ask you because you seem like you're going to gag when you mentioned Time Traveler, there, and Time Traveler is going to be my choice because I actually don't mind that song, but only because I think that I can envision that one on a Kiss record if it was cleaned up and had real drums. I mean, the thing that kind of just irks me a bit with that song is that drum machine. It's just so obnoxiously drum machine. That's the only thing about it I don't like. But as a song, I think it's pretty good, and he has some good vocals on there. And if I'm not mistaken, Bruce is playing guitar there and does a solo on that too. So I think it's decent.
Yeah, no, I'm not gonna. I don't get upset by other people's tastes.
Well, I know, but you were like,
no, I can't stand that song. I mean, I was really excited when those demos were circulating early in my tape trading career, and finally got a hold of them, and it was really exciting to hear. And then on the second listen, I'm like, what the. It was just it was one of those things. It's like this isn't even good enough to be on Crazy Nights, which to my taste says a lot. Ken, what about you? Which one of those four is your favorite?
None.
No, that's a cop out. No cop out.
No, I know. I have to go. I have to side with Mark on this. Time Traveler is okay. I can kind of see why they left it off. I think it needed some revisions a little bit to make it a little bit better. I think it could have made it into a great song, probably. But I think it just wasn't ready for, the limelight of being on an album yet. So I'm going to go with Time Traveler.
Yeah, I'm going to make it unanimous because it really, in terms of structure, form, and all that, it's the best of the lot. The other ones are all just flaccid, syrupy. Yeah, they're just not the right thing. I mean, he must have been. They all seem to come from a similar frame of mind in terms of the perspective of the songs. And Time Traveler is dorky, but it's pleasantly dorky. You can see why that one made the box set.
Julian, I got to ask you though, with these songs that he was writing at that time period, do you think it's possible he was maybe writing to write for other people and maybe was just looking to write a single or a hit for somebody else at this point?
I think he was just writing to get something placed with someone else with the publishing money. When you owe the IRS $15 million, you'll take all the pennies you can get. But going back to that period, I mean, Billboard had him doing a solo album in '86 and then deciding not to do a solo album and focus on Kiss, and then he does a solo tour. So was he trying to, or at least thinking about reinventing himself? These things went out on publishing tape, so he was definitely trying to place them, and they went out with CBS Publishing, which was outside, I think, of Polygram. So he was most certainly trying to get them placed. And if you're trying to get an album on a Cher album, and she ends up doing a World Without Heroes. Sorry, Paul. She chose wisely there. So I don't know. I think in the back of his mind, he must have been thinking multiple directions. He's so committed to Kiss, he never did that solo album. And I think '86, in that time off, he should have gotten all that syrupy shit out of his system by doing a solo album. But hindsight's everything, and my opinion's irrelevant. He's Paul Stanley. He's he's the artist. He's the talent. So, but Time Traveler, definitely the best of that lot. So, here's another good thread. Was it a good idea to give Young and Wasted to Eric on the Animalized tour? Dan?
Was it good? I think it was okay. I mean, he did a decent vocal on it. I think the first time when they first did it, played it live, I saw it live. I thought, what? why is Gene not singing? But I thought, okay, well, they want to give Eric a vocal. They won't give him a vocal on an album, but they'll give it to him in concert, instead. So I think that song is a little tough for Gene because he was really screaming a lot on that song on the album, and I think they were probably thinking, oh, if I sing, or he's thinking, if I sing this, I'm gonna burn out my throat, in concert, when trying to do all these other songs like fits like a glove or whatever. So I think it was probably a good decision to give it to Eric Carr for more than one reason. To give Eric a song that he can sing, and then to save Gene's vocals a little bit.
Mark.
Yeah, I totally agree. I mean, I think that it suits Eric, his singing style for sure, and I think it's actually impressive to watch him do it because it's an upbeat song. Eric has to drum this now and sing at the same time, so that definitely shows his talent as a singing drummer. That's not an easy thing to do for sure. So I give him all the props in the world for doing that. And it is ironic because Mr. Gene, who's so against getting wasted and doing drugs and all this stuff, to have a song called Young and Wasted, maybe he just felt it was better to not have himself sing it and give it to Eric to sing, get it off his shoulders. But I think that's kind of grasping at straws at this point. But still, I think that Eric, it's good to showcase them. I mean, in the old days, we always had Peter Criss do songs live, so why not have Eric participate a bit more?
Yeah, and I don't agree with the theory about Gene's personal life decisions figuring into it, because he was singing Cold Gin earlier in the set. So but on the Animalized tour early on, I mean, he had a few. Cold Gin is a bit of work to sing vocally. He had Burn Bitch Burn initially as well, which if he thought he was going to be doing that all tour, you could see why he would have said, hey, Eric, why don't you sing it, just so I can lower the number of songs that I got to sing in a set. And they were already outsourcing the writing. Why not insource the singing? Let Eric do it.
So he still has a voice right now in 2024, fortunately, because of that, maybe.
Oh, he was different. He was a different sort of singer.
He was different, and he didn't scream in between songs like Paul did. So
no, and he kept to kind of his singing style and didn't. Paul's technique evolved. He went to lessons for breathing. Early on, he's singing from the gut, I think it was, and then learn proper singing technique in order to kind of maintain it. And then he goes operatic in the 1980s to compete with all the high pitch, Bruce Dickinson's air raid sirens. So, I mean, Paul tried to keep up with the Joneses vocally and maybe pushed himself outside the realm. But my God, that guy had a set of pipes for a few years. He could just listen to I Still Love You, Every Time I Look at You. The guy was just an absolutely incredible singer, but the yodeling was probably his downfall.
Yeah. Well, also the like what Ken said as well, I think the downfall also too was all the preaching in between the songs too, because that took a lot out of his voice too. The I got a feeling, all that stuff.
Yeah.
If you do that, for 200 shows a year, as well as sing, then the voice is getting a little hoarse there.
Yeah.
Did that War Machine video from Bryan Adams drop since the last episode, or did we talk about that?
Since the last, I think no, we didn't talk about it. I don't think yet.
I know we talked about Rock and Roll Hell.
Not the video. We didn't talk about the War Machine video, I don't think.
So now that you've heard his version of War Machine, Ken, what are you thinking? Does that make Kiss's version and Gene Simmons' contributions to it all the more valid? Now you've kind of heard how Brian.
I see Bryan Adams' version. I've heard it, and it's pretty much straight on with what Kiss did, but then Kiss did a couple of these changes and to it. I think added to it, made it more atmospheric, or whatever you want to call it. I think they made it a better song than he had intended it to be. And maybe that's because I've heard it so many times. I don't know, from Kiss, and because that's the kind of the definitive version. So when you hear something different, it's kind of a shock. You're expecting something to be right here at this point in the song, and it's not there. It's like, oh, I like that in the song what Kiss did, but Brian didn't do that in his version. So yeah, I think. Again, I think the Kiss version, what they did with it was even better. They made the right changes to it, or made the right additions to it, to make it I think a better song than originally intended, which is a good song to begin with by Brian. His version's good.
Yeah, I think one of the most interesting things about Brian's take on his version of War Machine is we finally get to hear a little bit more of the context of his creation, to understand just what Gene added to turn that into Kiss's song. We'd only been able to read about it, and to have that kind of audio evidence of how he plays it versus the very distinctive elements that became the signature in Kiss's version are completely absent in his, along with Gene's very, very powerful and attractive vocal.
Mm-hmm.
But I think the Bryan Adams, Mark's holding up the video.
Video's cool.
The video is very cool. And, Brian, we're not going to bash any Canadians around here, obviously.
Except for Mark.
Incredible, talented guy who had already placed 40 hits by 1982. Him and Jim Valance, very prolific. If you look at the Canadian Industry Awards, the stuff that was going on, I think it was Prism.
Prism.
Bryan Adams. Now we understand. Now we've got a little bit more for that creature story, to kind of understand the demo that and that's not his demo, obviously, from 82, which I'd still love to hear. But we're a little bit closer to hearing what Gene and Paul heard. Mark.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry, I just had to turn off my mic. Sorry, I just had to turn it off there. So because I was actually listening to it, because truth be told, this is probably the first time I actually listened to it. And what I find fascinating about it is that the intro lick that we're so used to, that he has a totally clean guitar arpeggiated version of that, which I thought was really fascinating that he did it that way, which makes me now wonder, because I'm kind of confused now, because didn't Gene say that he wrote that riff on a little Casio keyboard? So if he was the one who wrote that, the actual riff, so then Brian took that now and actually reinterpreted it on guitar now in his version.
Yeah.
But right. Was Gene writing it from Brian's influence? Did Brian always have that? Because turning it in, they're two very different things. I mean, which came first, the chicken or the egg?
Yeah, that's exactly what I'm trying to figure out, because that clean guitar version of it sounds really interesting, and I don't think Gene would have been frowning on that, but I think that since they wanted to make it more guttural, that was the reason why he probably changed it to how we hear it on Creatures of the Night, right? Because that would be much more sinister sounding in the way he does it. But a lot of the same things are there present, like the melodies are similar, the chord structures are similar and stuff. So it's very interesting to hear this version of the song. It's just like when I first time I heard Rock and Roll Hell when BTO did it there. I thought that was interesting to hear their version of it there as well, because it was similar but not similar. But hats off to Brian. I mean, he did a good version of it, obviously good enough that Gene took attention to it and made a pretty popular Kiss song out of it.
Yeah, so Rob Benjamin chimed in the comments asking whether I was going to go see the Reagan biopic. tomorrow, which Gene Simmons has contributed a song to.
An old song. It's a what was it?
Stormy Weather.
Stormy Weather again. Yeah. That I'm interested to hear that. I don't know if he's going to sing.
I'm not going to go see a
like
Reagan,
the original or what.
Not unless it's John Reagan.
Oh, John Reagan.
Exactly.
The movie.
Yeah, no. I lived through we all lived through the Reagan years, so I don't need to go see one. It's interesting that's going to be is that going to be the first post-Kiss solo music released by any of them? I know Kiss-related recordings has some Eric Singer contributions to some bands coming out. I think Tommy's done some work with some bands that's coming out. But in terms of original music or original solo billing stuff, that I think this is it. So I'm interested to check it out because Stormy Weather is an ancient song.
It's a classic song. It's a very good song.
Someone's trying to make a funny in the audience. Where is it? Yeah, Rob, Peter, Chris. Well, what a difference a day makes, and now Gene's doing Stormy Weather. You
never know.
You never know.
Who was it? Rod Stewart did a bunch of standards and made a big hit out of it, right? Back a while ago. So,
who was it that did the Great American Songbook?
That was
Rob?
That was Rod Stewart.
Okay.
Yeah. He did more than one album, right? A couple, 2 or 3. I don't know.
It's incredible that guy went from singing with Jeff Beck such great songs to being more a ballady guy at the end.
He's still a goddamn national treasure for Scotland.
He's still touring.
Yeah. Hey, all these guys, at this point, I don't care. I'm so past caring what they do as long as they keep doing. I mean, you go back and read the interviews in the 1980s of I can't imagine doing this when I'm 40.
Yeah,
what a difference a few decades makes that, these guys are out there in their 70s, most of them doing it quite amazingly.
Here's a question for you though regarding that. Do you think for instance, like some of today's artists, like Taylor Swift, just as an example, will be singing, being on tour when she's 75 and on tour?
I don't know personally. I personally feel that the industry was a bit different back when these bands started. They would, record labels let bands develop and do different things and stuff like that. And as we got now later and later, it's getting back now towards singles again, and albums are, not selling as well as before. And the thing is too, I find that bands usually end up having longevity because you can get other people to replace them. But if Taylor Swift doesn't want to do it anymore, then it's just not happening. Her backing band won't continue playing her music with somebody else fronting it. You know what I mean? So it's up to her. She has to be the one who's going to stay and do it. I mean, Kiss, they had people in and out throughout 50 years, and they were able to do this long a period of time to do it. Taylor Swift is Taylor Swift, just like Cher was Cher, Dolly Parton. These people, they had to want to do it themselves. The backing bands were just the backing bands, right? So I always find that the bands always do better. I mean, look at the Stones. The funny thing with the Stones is that back when Rolling the Steel Wheels came out, there was a running joke amongst a lot of us younger guys in bands saying that, it was called the Steel Wheelchair Tour at that point. And that was in 89, and look at them now. They're still going out and still playing stuff. I mean, they're beyond the wheelchair at this point, if you were to look at it that way, right? So, I think bands have an advantage in that sense, I think, as far as staying, out and continuing longer, I think.
I have no idea because I've never made it through one of her songs. It's just I've tried.
Probably won't live to see it anyway. So.
It's not my thing. This week, though, I would just like to say this because I've been known to bash this band that announced their reunion after 15 years. I hate Oasis with a passion.
Oh,
I hate everything about Liam and Noel and
they need the money.
just how they behave and hold themselves.
Mhm.
And when they came out in England, their crap ending up on the jukebox and just being played by the young chavs endlessly, ceaselessly, bumping the good music off the jukebox with Wonderwall, Champagne Supernova, and all that crap. I
Rock
had
and roll stuff.
I liked Pulp and Blur
Mhm.
back then. Pulp was the superior band of those three in terms of art rock. But I had never listened to an Oasis album until this week, and I managed to get through the
this
first
week?
two. Yeah, and all the way through. Just the second one's okay, actually.
Yeah.
The first one, I just find it very slow, very down tempo. Nothing special, nothing spectacular. I don't get the hype. But I'm old and I hated them as a preconception. So, but the second one's decent enough. I wouldn't go and buy any deluxe editions of any of them.
Mhm.
I just wanted to say that.
Actually, can I comment on that? I also not being a big Oasis person. I don't hate them with a passion like Julian does.
You
But
should work
um,
harder.
see, the thing is, I was never. I always disliked Liam. I always thought Liam epitomized everything that I hated about lead vocalists. He was full of himself. He thought he was the band. He did stupid shit like Oasis would go and play a show, and he would say that he can't sing tonight because his throat hurts, and then you see him in the audience at the balcony sitting there drinking and smoking, watching the band. Stupid shit like that he would do. But I bought a couple of Noel Gallagher's solo records. Like I just got his recent one, the one that he just put out most recently, and I actually liked it. I actually thought that album was really good, and it was very Brit rock to me, at least. I mean, I don't know if I'm a voice about Brit rock. Julian probably knows more about it than I ever will. But
no more valid than you.
Okay, well, but I actually liked that album, and I thought that it was pretty decent. But I almost wish that he would have just stayed continuing with his own stuff than to go back with Liam, because I know Liam did that record with that other guy now that they released that record with that other known British guy, and then that got good reviews too. But why get back together? I'm almost having a bet with a couple of other friends of mine to see how long it's going to last until they call it quits middle of the tour. Like how many shows they're going to actually do before it's like done. But the thing is, these guys are playing stadiums in the UK. I think they're doing.
They'll sell them out. It's gonna be a total bloodbath tomorrow. There's gonna be the size of audiences Kiss could only dream of. Those do they have Manchester gigs? They must have. It's just going to be an absolute fucking bloodbath by bots, and then the secondary market is going to be just disgusting. But it's all about the money.
Now, Julian, do you know what they're doing? Are they doing U.S. dates at all? Because I heard this running theory that they're going to do fantastic in the U.K., but if they were to go over here into the U.S., that they may not be able to play as big venues here as they do in the U.K.
I don't know if they were ever as big here. Well, yeah, they were big here. I think the first album or one of them did like 4 million US units. So I'd have to fact check.
Oh, okay.
I don't
do
care
an
enough.
arena,
but they've been rock is dead in this country, and unless you're a yuppie or trust fund kid, and you get one of those fancy bracelets to go and see a show. It's not a vibe. I was offered a photo pass to do the Aftershock Festival. And I turned it down. I'm like, I ain't going to go see that. There are like 5 bands on there that I would love to see. And I'd love all access to. Stone Roses were decent, by the way, Rob. But I just don't want anything to do with the scene now. After the end of the road tour and also what's gone down with Aerosmith, just the egregious pricing for decent seats in the house.
Expensive.
The tack-on fees. I got my refund for LA, and I saw I was dumb enough to have paid $90 for something with one of those tickets. 3 Aerosmith tickets, $2,500.
Ooh,
I mean, yeah,
that's a lot, man.
Well, I didn't want garbage seats either. I would have taken nosebleeds to do them, but I'm just so over the concert experience here, especially when the audience is really suck ass.
Yeah, especially in America, you know. I mean,
You get all these rich, privileged people coming and going, and it's more of a selfie stick experience than going for the music. Well, you know what? I can listen to I'd rather listen to the YouTube and hear the music now, or wait for a bootleg to show up. But you know, I don't like having to be around people.
Yeah, I hear you. I hear you. I mean,
the problem with concerts is that there's people there.
Yeah, you know, and that's the funny thing is when you just mentioned that ticket price, I vividly remember going to get tickets for Rush when they went for to do tour Power Windows, and I got tickets for like $18.95. Those were the days when it was like $18, and I had good seats, like Reds in Maple Leaf Gardens, which is like golds are the good seats down at the bottom, and the red was the next section up, so it was like stage level seating, and that was great. Back then I could go see concerts. I could go see like 9-10 bands a year because it only costs like between $60.95 to $20 for a ticket. And now it costs like fucking $150 to see for one person to go see a show. If you're lucky here in Canada, you know, even more.
Yeah, I've lost out on flights. You know, obviously I had flights to LA for the Aerosmith. You know, so now I've got flight credits. I may go to Vegas to see Ace, but we shall see. I mean, just you know, even Ace's show in Vegas, it's like bumfuck Vegas. It's like trailer park. You know, it's just so goddamn torturous. You know, it was pretty torturous in December for the Kiss shows. You know, but that was again people. You know, there were good people and there were people. All right, that's enough. We've gone off onto a whinge fest about Julia not liking people. I do like people. They have to be the right people in the right place, in the right quantity, for the right duration, with an escape hatch.
Yes.
All right, people. Well, we appreciate all the people who've taken the time to join us and chime in with all your comments today. We do appreciate you listening to us, whether you're listening to us live or whether you're catching up with us later. That's it. We'll be back next week, maybe with a more planned out topic. Who knows? But if not, thank you for joining us. We'll see you next time.
Thank you for spending time listening to the KissFAQ podcast today. All sales are final. There are no refunds. If you'd like, look us up on Facebook or come over to the KissFAQ Message Board and discuss the topic we've broadcast today. Don't forget to rate us on iTunes, Spreaker, or wherever you've listened to the show. We hope you'll join us again.
People.